This has been an idea that we've talked about for years, and it's really a matter of getting the right developer at the right time to make the right game.
That's 80% of the battle to me, is, if you've got the developers, got the passion, the technology, and the right creative vision for the product, you're in good shape from the get-go. For influence on this game, we looked at the past story arcs that involved the Shi'ar and the X-Men and the Macron Crystal, and obviously the more epic Doctor Doom-centric storyline. A little bit of Secret Wars, Civil War, the Ultimate books, and how kind of real-world and stylized those books are. Looking at all of those big epic arcs, those famous Marvel arcs.
The challenges on any given game project are really different depending on the game, but usually what you're dealing with is the scale of the game, the scope, how many characters are there, how many unique backgrounds are there, how big is the game in general, how many levels are there going to be. You have effects, you have design that you have to liaise with, you have programming budgets that you have to deal with and making sure that everything fits within memory.
The schedule is the biggest thing, making sure everyone's organized and you know who's working on what next. The artist better be creating that art for the levels, weeks in advance of when the actual designers need it.
This is the closest thing to a massive multiplayer that I've ever worked on. We're talking about 7,000 or 8,000 unique objects. What we basically do is we start off in concept, and we get a sense of what it is we want to do. And we go to our really good concept artists here, and we say to them, all right, we need to get a sense of what the architecture is going to look like and what the characters are going to look like. And we create a book. We do color studies on it, so we get a sense of what the lighting is going to be like. And then we start to actually rough it out in 3D. And it goes from modeling to texture to lighting, and then eventually to gameplay and try to all fit it in.
And of course the levels is another huge challenge. We have to make sure there's different puzzles or there's different areas in the game where everyone feels like these characters' unique abilities actually shine.
We're actually building sets, and then we're set dressing them and trying to make them look as cool as we can.
Developing a launch title is a big challenge. When we first got hardware, we had to become more and more skilled at creating high-quality content, much more detailed worlds. That's really exciting. We're learning new things every day that really make games better.
We have over 20 playable characters, some that fly, some that fight on the ground, some that do both, some that fight underwater. From a gameplay design perspective, it's a huge undertaking, and getting that to work, getting that to balance, getting that to play really well is really a testament to the creative talents of the guys at Raven and what they've been able to do with this property.
So what we do is we respect what tech needs, making sure that our memory budgets and that everything that we build actually is going to run and is going to look good. And they respect us in making sure that, in the end, we have a product that looks fantastic.
The music in the game was something that we actually had outsourced. We wanted to make sure we were getting the absolute best for it. We wanted to make sure we were getting the true live orchestras, stuff like that. We actually got a few different composers. We wanted to make sure different parts of the game actually had different feelings to it. So if you're in Murder World, let's say, it's kind of got this kind of crazy carnival kind of sense to it. But then, of course, when you're on the Shield helicarrier, it's very triumphant, very heroic sound. And we really wanted to make sure we had a difference and really matched the different environments you were in. And they did an awesome job. The effects are huge. I mean, when you've got Thor, let's say, swinging a hammer, you can kind of guess what that's going to sound like, but you've really got to see the crackle of the thunder and the electricity on that hammer when he swings it, because they have a hissing in the beginning of it, and they also just kind of explode.
Hello again, my friends.
Voiceovers for these comic book characters, as you can imagine, is a tough thing. I mean, it's like everyone has their own idea of what they sound like.
I am Uatu, the Watcher. Listen closely, mortals.
Certainly, if a movie's come out, it's a lot easier to kind of judge that, but when you just see these guys on page, it's near and dear to everybody's heart.
This one started with the characters, and then it grew from there. For an actor, that's the best way to work. Because the characters are the core of it.
It's an action game, and everybody likes to be able to jump on the controller and mash the buttons. But at the very core, this is a story of good and evil.
Superheroes just happen to translate into video games just about as good as anything else out there.
Certainly no other superhero game out there has such a massive cast.
It's sort of a compilation of everything Marvel.
Over 140 characters total, 20 plus playable, with some of the popular ones in the movies as well as the comic books.
There's just so much variety and personality and superpowers. It's something everyone can relate to and everyone has their favorite.
Deadpool is actually one of my favorite characters.
Stranded on a desert island, I can only have one, it would be Deadpool.
Deadpool's my favorite. He has such a wild sense of humor, like Robin Williams in Red Tights.
He's kind of a ninja. He's also a mutant, so he's got some superhuman abilities.
Captain America.
Captain America.
Is kind of the cornerstone. He's got incredible leadership abilities.
He's got great melee moves as well, but he can throw his shield around, guiding it around the level.
Every RPG that's fantasy-based obviously has their sorcerers or wizards, and that's what the role of Doctor Strange is in this game. He is the Sorcerer Supreme.
My favorite is probably Thor. He's a big bruiser, he's a cool guy. He completely destroys and decimates anything that he goes up against.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's, Spider-Man. He's a great guy. One of my favorite things is just swinging around the levels with him.
My favorite superhero to play in the game is probably Iron Man, just because he has so many over-the-top, moves. He's got missiles, he can fly.
He's in a suit of iron, so he's a pretty strong character melee-wise.
Torch.
And Iceman, one of my favorite characters of all time.
Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider.
He's a huge favorite here in the Raven development team.
He's got these spectacular change moves.
My favorite superhero is probably the Thing.
Super strong, rock-like guy that can just grab a baddie and toss him around. Over-the-top enjoyment right there.
Blade. When Activision's done testing, people realize that he tested as one of the most popular characters in the game.
Especially like Black Panther, he's got kind of a neat style.
Is T'Challa more of a prince or more of a panther?
I do the voice of the character, the Black Panther, who's also known as T'Challa. He's the king of Wakanda and superhero. Imagine if the leader of the country was also the best fighter and the smartest guy and technological wizard as well as the ultimate physical specimen.
I have to go with Wolverine.
Wolverine.
I like Wolverine.
He's got a lot of edge to him.
Wolverine is usually always on my team. They've added so many kind of uber moves as his superpower set.
Invisible Woman can do some attacks that get people with a force field.
Storm, one of the X-Men characters, another flyer. Obviously, lightning powers and weather powers are the core of Storm's abilities.
Elektra is kind of the ninja character. All her moves are a little like Spider-Man, but she's very acrobatic.
Luke Cage.
Captain America.
Silver Surfer.
Mr. Fantastic.
It's like a parent with his or her children. I love them all. I can't say Spider-Man is my favorite because what about the X-Men? And how about Daredevil? And am I going to leave out Iron Man? And am I the kind of guy that wouldn't mention the Fantastic Four?
There are so many different combat styles in the game. The more athletic or nimble characters like Elektra or Spider-Man, to more brawler characters like Wolverine, Captain America, to the big kind of tank level characters we have in the game. We have character-specific moves, about 6 of them per character, that are going to blow people away. So, various uses of web abilities with Spider-Man, various uses of the shield with Captain America, various uses of the hammer with Thor, Elektra with all of her projectiles and size and ninja-like abilities. Seeing how the abilities work together, because combos is a big part of this. Given the amount of characters in the game, the player is always going to be exhilarated and on the edge of their seat.
Who would you rather watch die?
My favorite boss in the game right now is Galactus. The coolest part about him is that he's over 400 feet tall, and when the boss battle starts, it's just unthinkable that you'd ever be able to defeat him. And Raven's done this really awesome job of having Silver Surfer kind of swoop in at the end of the day. You're fighting with 5 guys, there's a really cool minigame, and Silver Surfer defeats Galactus in kind of true to comic form.
We have 20 playable characters in this game, but we're actually going to have even more as you play through, so we can't really say who they are yet, but once you get the game, you're going to be blown away by some of these characters that we're going to be able to unlock.
It really feels like you're actually playing the Marvel Universe and not playing a game about the Marvel Universe.
Well, now that we're wrapping up the project, I think that everybody, both at Activision and at Raven, is really proud of the game that's been created.
Having this game on next-gen platforms, an epic Marvel Universe game, I feel like this is one of the most important games in the history of Marvel.
Well, the character list is huge. Obviously, there's over 140 characters in the game with over 20 playable characters in the game, led by the well-known guys like Spidey, Wolverine, Captain America.
This game is huge. We're talking about somewhere between 90 and 95 playable iterations of characters and heroes.
I think what's great about Marvel superheroes in video games is that it's such an interactive medium. Unlike maybe comic books and movies, which are a little bit more passive for the consumer, you can actually really experience being a superhero in a very cinematic, realistic movie-like setting.
It's being able to do the impossible. Now you're able to see it and hear it, you know, and control it.
I think it just goes back to people love these heroes. They love the history behind them. They love what they stand for. They love how they play out both in films and interactive. And it's just really something compelling that appeals to both the youngest of kids and actually adults who've grown up with these properties back in the 50s and 60s when these comics really first hit their stride.
They want to see the stuff that they grew up with. You know, they're coming to us and they're saying, look guys, we know the heroes. Don't mess it up.
Comic book fans are very passionate about, you know, the characters in the comic books, and they've been, you know, really supportive over the last 40 years, translating into our massively successful feature films, animation, and now video games is just, you know, it's the natural next medium.
How dare you strike the son of Odin?
Given the scope of this game, we needed the collaboration of a lot of people.
So all of us kind of huddled, both as a group and individually, on what we wanted to do with this kind of new action RPG license. Knowing the fact that this was going to be the biggest, most epic superhero Marvel game ever, with all the characters we had access to.
We needed Marvel's input, we needed our internal design input, we needed our external developer input, we needed the marketing input.
There's a lot of challenges when you first start any game project. You have to decide what kind of game is it going to be. Is it going to be an action game? Is it going to be a role-playing game? Working on any licensed game, you want to make sure you have a certain amount of integrity with the characters, with the environment it's in, and certainly Marvel's no different.
The story came as a result of the concept of the game. We had the opportunity to make a game that basically included anybody that we wanted from the Marvel Universe.
Marvel's done a great job with this in terms of just opening the vault of all the different superheroes, so we can bring in over 140 to a game never been done before.
Not on my watch.
I think that the coolest part about these characters from a fan perspective is how much depth there is in all of their personalities and their different likenesses. We worked really closely with C.B. Cebulski from Marvel and also the writers at Raven to kind of incorporate all of the over 140 characters in the game, the 20 playable. And the result is that Dr. Doom has basically risen to power and reassembled the Masters of Evil. For people that aren't quite aware of what that means, it's this epic lineup of villains. And the premise of the game basically is you can take the giant roster of characters, team them up your own way, create your own custom Marvel team from maybe your favorite characters from either movies or comic books, whatever, and basically confront Doom and all the villains that he's going along with and effectively determine the fate of the Marvel Universe.
I think a lot of the comic book fans will love the nods that we give to the comic book universe. We have a lot of different levels in the game that they'll recognize. You might find yourself underwater in Namor's hometown of Atlantis, and then all of a sudden you're in Thor's homeworld and different places like Asgard.
Atlantis was something that we all wanted to do, and very early on kind of put up on the board, but I never thought we would get there given, you know, the different dynamics you have to deal with an underwater gameplay. But Raven did it, and did it, you know, such a fantastic job, both gameplay-wise, physics-wise, visually. It's really stunning.
We all know these comic book characters have had different incarnations throughout the years. Some people prefer the old 60s and 70s classic look. There's some new updated stuff. So if you want to be Ultimate Thor, or maybe World War II Captain America, or even the brand new Spider-Man outfit that's out there, you can change all those in the game and actually upgrade those so they have different stats.
You're going to be able to mix and match whatever team you like, or if there's a certain 4 guys or girls that you like that you want to play the whole way through, you can do that.
Of course, the huge difference is the graphics when it comes to next generation.
The added bonus being that with the next generation hardware, we have all sorts of new technical features and looks and lighting and special effects that make it that much more engrossing of an experience.
More geometry, higher intensity textures, more resolution, HDR lighting.
In terms of visually, what you'll see here on the next-gen platforms, it's really the most amazing experience, video game-wise, both gameplay and visually, that the Marvel fans have ever seen.
The online experience is going to be really great. I think we're going to have kind of online co-op and competitive mode. And on the online side, as you can really compete and play as a team with your friends, it's going to really bring the intensity level up another notch. And it really shows who's really pulling the weight, amongst the team. You're going to see like one guy's killing all the guys, the other guys are just relaxed, not doing anything. And that will show in this game, in the online competitive mode. We really haven't seen that in any other games.
The mass gamer, the hardcore gamer, they're all going to find something really appealing.
I can truly say in my heart of hearts that I think that this is the best Marvel game ever.
I don't care if you like me, but if a threat like this comes again, can S.H.I.E.L.D. count on your help? The world can count on us, sir. It's go time! I will not be defeated! How can this be possible? It includes almost every big Marvel character, fighting 1,000,000 villains. Finally, I have achieved my ultimate. I think it's the best of its type that I have ever seen.
Try to keep it as little as possible, as close as possible to the Marvel Universe. If you're a fan of the comics, this is the comics brought to life right here.
There's all these different elements that make it a true action RPG. There's a lot of adventure. There's a customization aspect for your team that really makes it a cool game to play.
And one of the things that we really focus on is your ability to determine the fate of the Marvel Universe.
Really made this game much more interactive. As you make key decisions in the game, you'll see those reflected in an epic epilogue system.
And essentially, the fate of the Marvel Universe in the context of this video game is in your hands. It invites the player to live it.
From a development standpoint, the combat of the game has always been one of our primary focuses. We really wanted to deliver on being a superhero.
There are a lot of different unique combat maneuvers. You have Spider-Man who can actually use his webs and sling people up, and you have the Thing who can attach people around. Just everything you can imagine for all the unique characteristics of the superhero, the characters you've read about.
A couple of which would be the ability to fight while you're in the air. You can also fight underwater.
It just makes the game feel more unique. It's not just we have 24 characters with just different skins. Like we really have 24 unique characters with whole new sets of animations and powers.
We debuted the game at E3, and since then we've won over 20 awards. Just Best Action RPG, Best of E3, Top 10 at E3 on things like MTV, Yahoo, GameSpot.com and all the gaming things. So we were pretty excited about that, and we're hoping that the buzz continues.
I love this game!
We really set out to make a game that's massive and has something for everybody.
Y'all really rock. Seriously, to make this is like incredibly amazing. I've got to come to more of these panels.
We love feedback from you guys on what you want in the games, and we check out the message boards. Marvel Activision Wraith, we're always seeing what you like, what you didn't like about the last game, and what you want in a new one.
Every character's got their own feel to it, and I think that's what's really going to stand out from some of the other action-y type games.
For me, it wasn't so much as an actor a thrill as much as a comic book thrill. It was like every trade paperback nailed together, all in one second. Oh wait, now there's Galactus.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance is an all-new action RPG that features the largest cast of superheroes ever in a video game. There are over 140 named Marvel characters in the game. Features really strong online components, native next-gen, PS3, Nintendo Wii launch title. Really exciting story where gamers are actually going to face off against the Masters of Evil, Dr. Doom, and create their own customized team of Marvel characters, which they'll be able to level up. build team reputation, or they can take a more traditional Marvel team. Gamers are going to really have the ultimate choice to determine the fate of the Marvel Universe, either by using some of their favorite teams from classic comics or by creating their own custom team. The new characters that we're revealing for Comic-Con are Human Torch, Invisible Woman, and Iceman. I work mostly on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and I will say that Human Torch and Iceman are pretty epic on those consoles because with the kind of the nature of their effects, Human Torch having this awesome next-gen real-time fire that lights up the whole environment and features really cool distortion shaders. It's really awesome to be able to control that in the game and kind of like shoot around fire and light all the enemies on fire. That's really great. And Iceman's powers, we've been using HDRL, or Bloom it's called, to really like give the effect of like the way that snow actually lights up and stuff like that. So you have these cool ice effects, and it's really awesome to be able to make a comic game in the next gen because all the different hero effects, you can do so much more with the different shaders and like really take the whole combat element of the game to a level that really can only exist in a movie, at least to this point. You know, you're never going to see a fire effect in a PS2 game that will rival a movie. But all of a sudden, you know, now on the next gen you have these amazing fire effects. It really allows you to take the whole superhero experience and really like make you live it in the game the way you never could before. Well, the PS3 and Xbox 360 feature actually a different engine than the current gen. And when I say different, it's more like of a hybrid that we've worked, Raven Software is working on the game and they've worked with Vicarious Visions to really supplement our engine with a lot of the things that are making next-gen games come to life for players. I mean, on the surface level, that's obviously normal mapping, specular mapping, all that kind of stuff that makes the character models really pop. The Wii is definitely one of the most exciting aspects of the project. We, so far, have been really focusing on making all of the characters feel unique. It's one thing that is, I think, technically challenging making a launch title for the Wii is seeing your ideas kind of like come to life. And for us, we've definitely been doing a ton of concept testing at Vicarious Visions, trying to figure out like what's the best way to play the Wii controller and how it works best for our game. And it's really great to see the feedback, and it's also really interesting for people like me. My original idea of how the Wii controller worked is much different than it is now, as I've gotten to play the Wii and seen other people play the Wii. And fundamentally speaking, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, what it seeks to do is allow people to really feel what it's like to be the different characters in the game. We have over 22 playable characters, and so a guy like Spider-Man obviously has different attacks. You can web a guy and swing around in a circle, or you can shoot the web. That's obviously going to be different than somebody like Thor, who's got a hammer that you can control, or Wolverine, who's got this like brutal hack and slash style. A lot of characters have like charge abilities, where in the current gen consoles, you're button mashing to build up their powers. All of those powers are going to be made through like kinetic movements with the Wii controller. So if you're going to be charging the controller, you might be doing something like this, or you might be doing like this. Those like building up the energy obviously works that way. There's a lot of mini games that involve pushing and pulling. They're obviously going to really take advantage of the Wii controller, and they're all going to be different. The game is fundamentally very different from X-Men Legends, mainly because X-Men Legends, the whole series, focused on more of a traditional RPG. The power sets were like really straightforward in terms of you would have like a radial attack or a straight melee attack, or you would have like this like, traditional ranged attack, and it really like drawed upon what was considered classic in I would say an action RPG. The strengths of the game obviously were the depths of the character roster and the different RPG depth, but making X-Men Legends and X-Men Legends 2 really gave us a foundation of understanding like what's cool about the game and what can be different. And for Marvel Legends, we've really taken the game in its own unique direction from action RPGs. The game is really focused on combat. And when I say that, basically what we've tried to do is supplement like a fighter mechanic into an action RPG. With that said though, there's obviously incredible RPG aspects that really tie together the game. Players are going to be able to assemble their own custom team of Marvel characters and determine the fate of the Marvel Universe, or choose from more classic lineups and kind of relive moments that they loved from the comics. Personally, I'm biased, but I think that it's probably one of the strongest comic games ever to come out, and presents comic content in a way that all gamers, regardless of how hardcore comic fans are, they're going to love. And I think for anyone who's been at all exposed to gaming or comic movies or comic books themselves, it has a lot to look forward to.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance really brings the Marvel Universe to the gamer. I mean, we've got over 140 different characters to play with, or to actually experience. You've got 20 playable characters plus additional unlockables, and it's all the famous guys you come to expect. I mean, you got Thor, Wolverine, Spider-Man, all these huge names in the game, for the first time ever. Partway through the game, you unlock this ability to create your own team. And the idea behind that is you're forging this team, and you're making it like, your own thing. We want to make sure that the player gains reputation as they go throughout the game. So the way it works is, you go ahead and you get your name, you pick your logo, you pick your initial roster, and you actually will open up roster slots as you continue throughout the game. So if you have somebody on your team that you really want and you try to swap them in, if you don't have any additional roster spots, you're actually going to lose reputation, because again, it's the team. You've built these guys up. If you've got Thor and Wolverine and Captain America and Iceman all on the same team, that's who everyone recognizes. That's who the public knows as this, the new Bob's Defenders or whatever you're going to call it. So now if you suddenly make a switch to that team, you actually lose some of the reputation you had previously gained. However, if your roster spots are available and you just sub in somebody, from the, so you still have the 4 characters in there, you actually will not lose the reputation. The multiplayer aspect of Marvel Ultimate Alliance, easily my favorite part of the game. I mean, it's like that's what you get. You got 3 other buddies sitting there playing the game. And what's awesome about it is you really get to use those characters. Like if I'm Spider-Man, and so I just throw them up into the air and I can actually web sling them to the ceiling. You can have Thor come over and like smash him with his hammer, or Thing can come over and actually start pounding them. And then eventually those guys, you get bonus experience for actually using those guys together in different ways. Another sneaky tactic I tend to use is we've got an arcade mode in the game. And how that works, you actually gain points, and it's like y'all are working together, so there's not friendly fire, but you actually gain experience for whoever made the kills, whoever did the damage. So a sneaky tactic is like I'll sit with Spider-Man and wait in the back till someone's almost dead, and then use his web bullets from far, and you can hit like 2 or 3 guys at once that everyone else has been working on, and you actually get the points for the kills. So arcade mode really brings out, it's like certain powers really can be used to your advantage in arcade mode to gain some more points. So we really want to make sure we brought up the co-op and really that experience in Marvel Ultimate Alliance is obviously the bread and butter of the game. It's like what people really enjoy is all that experience going back and forth with their buddies. So arcade mode is a natural fit. And so the way arcade mode works is you can play the whole game start to finish. You don't have to beat levels previously. I mean, it's like full on, you get to play the entire game through in arcade mode, and the way that works is after every level, every character gets a certain amount of points, and it's points based on how many kills did you make, how much damage was done, and then there's even additional rewards. So like if you destroy the most objects, you get the additional destruction award. If you killed the most guys, you get different awards for that, and it's a blast, because it doesn't matter if you played through the levels before, you played through the mission before, it's like always fun trying to be the guy to beat the, win the zone, basically. One of the focuses of the game, we want to make sure like the player's always experiencing something new, so it's, you just don't want the game to be, get to be repetitive. We always want to make sure like you can handle the enemies differently, and one of the ways we did that, of course, is the enemies have weapons you can take away from them. And pretty much every single enemy in the game that has a weapon, you can grab away from them. So whether it's a sword, you can rip it out of something like they've got little fire demons down there in Mephisto's lair, and you can actually rip stuff out of their hands. There's frost giants in the Niflheim lair levels. And what's great about the different challenges, sometimes it's simple as tapping a button rapidly, or on the PS3 you have to shake the controller. Other times it's actually a sequence of buttons you have to hit, or a series of gestures you have to make with the PS3 controller in order to get those weapons away. And it's another fun way of making the game different. And those weapons are always super powerful when you get them, but they don't always last long. We kind of have like a certain amount of damage. So if you get a frost giant's massive hammer, you can have Thor, or you can have Iron Man sitting there with his massive hammer, and it will inflict some serious amounts of damage, but it's only for a limited time. The Wii controller was a difficult thing to decide at first because it was so wide open. I mean, it's like we've never seen anything like that before, but Nintendo did an awesome job actually breaking it up into the 2 different controllers, because what you find is there's just so much more freedom when you've got those 2 different hands. One you can stay still and be really accurate with. Vicarious Visions, really, they came up with an awesome scheme for the Wii controller, and they just kept testing it over and over. And of course, there's the grab and throws where you grab a guy and throw him. What's best about it is the instant, the finishing moves for the fighting, the fact that you can flick up and you can do a pop-up. You can smash down, you can do this stun move. I mean, it's like right there at your command, you've got all these different moves available right away. Even the powers, you can hold that power button and flick your wrists in different ways, and you've got all these powers available to you right away. So that control, it's awesome. And even the camera itself, that's a work of genius by those guys. It's like how you tilt how you rotate your one hand actually rotates the camera, and it's really intuitive, and I'm sure it's going to actually be copied by a lot of games in the future. Obviously, the PS3 and the Wii versions are different in the graphical sense. There's no doubt about it. They've got all the special fancy shaders and all the different shadowing and lighting techniques in the PS3. They can even run on actually the 1080. But What the Wii has going for it, of course, is just that freedom of movement with the controller. Again, it's like, since it's broken up into 2 different controllers, you can do a lot more gestures than you can with the PS3 tilt controller. But the PS3 tilt controller, I mean, it's really easy. It's like a really natural motion to be flicking that left and right and up and down. So the Wii has more gestures to it, more elaborate gestures, like you can spin it, kind of spin it around, or just make stuff that really is just more elaborate than you got with the PS3. With the PS3, of course, the graphical improvements are amazing when you look at that. So the way the tilt controller works for the PS3 is obviously you can grab guys there and throw them all around with the tilt controller. We've even actually added extra damage to every single one of the powers, and really it's a time-based thing. So the way that works is like for melee attacks, let's say you've got Thor's hammer and he flies up in the air and also he's going to come down to the ground. Just before he hits, you got to shake that controller and really kind of do it a downward jerk. We just didn't want to make it a tilt. We really wanted to get the player into it, and you'll do extra damage that way. Then there's a bunch of boss sequences using the tilt controller. Let's say you're facing Galactus and he grabs you in order to get out of his grip. You can shake it up and down. But later on, Silver Surfer actually comes in and will help you out against Galactus. And as Silver Surfer's flying around Galactus, you'll make different motions, whatever the motion is told on screen, like rolling it left, rolling it right, pulling it back, and then that allows Silver Surfer to get through the battle with Galactus. Marvel Ultimate Alliance, to me, it's like, well, what's so great about it is that we brought the entire Marvel Universe to the fans. It's like over 140 of those characters we mentioned, all the playable heroes. It's just the first time you get to play all these guys at once, and it's awesome when you got 3 other buddies sitting there playing. I love arcade mode. It just totally rocks being able to get the high score for a level and get additional bonuses. So really that's what made the game special for me.
Booth at Comic-Con 2006. With me is Chris. He's an associate producer on Marvel Ultimate Alliance. What can you tell me about this game?
Marvel Ultimate Alliance is an exciting fall title for us. It's a launch title on the PlayStation 3 and the Nintendo Wii. Basically, the history of the game is Marvel said that we could make a game about anybody in the entire Marvel Universe. So what we've come up with is a game that has 140 different characters. I think the biggest challenge is all their different costumes. We have 140 characters, 20 playable. All of them have different outfits from the comic timelines, and we really want to allow fans to play these characters the way that they remember them. So really 140 is like 140 times 4 because there's all the different outfits, and so the artists at Raven have just been working overtime. Really making sure all the costumes are correct with the comics, and B, look awesome too.
Now, obviously the Comic-Con audience is the audience that you guys are targeting. What has the response been so far?
Well, the response at Comic-Con is pretty overwhelming. A lot of times when we showed the game off to the gaming press, everyone's really critiquing the graphics, and we had a lot of positive feedback, obviously, but here it's like, people's life dream to be able to create their own custom Marvel team from anybody and take it and determine the fate of the Marvel Universe. It's like the ultimate comic concept. Working with Marvel comic games is always a really exciting opportunity from a game development perspective. We always want to really bridge all the comic content, but also make it in a way that's really exciting for gamers. And for us, on Marvel Ultimate Alliance, we figured that everybody wants to play superhero games to really be a superhero and experience what it's like to have all the exciting powers. Every level, there's just tons of carnage and destruction. It's really exciting, and visually, with all the things breaking and all the real-time shadows, it's just a really amazing experience. At Comic-Con, we're revealing Human Torch and Iceman. They both are really, I guess you could say, elemental. Human Torch can throw fire around the environment, and Iceman all this snow and ice. And seeing these effects in the next gen and represented with things like high dynamic range lighting and all these different shaders, it's really impressive and really amazing. It definitely pulls people into the game. Marvel Ultimate Alliance has an incredible amount of customization. It's an RPG at heart, and for this game we really focused on allowing players to create their own Marvel team. From the very beginning, players are going to be able to choose from either classic Marvel teams or create their own. Personally, I like to play with Spider-Man, Captain America, Wolverine, and Ghost Rider, which, if you know about the comics, isn't really like a Marvel Comics traditional team. When you play with these teams, though, you're actually able to customize the team by naming the team and picking a team icon, upgrading team stats, unlocking team powers. You can even dress the guys in your team by unlocking all the different costumes. That's just like one example of the customization in the game. Obviously, on like an individual character basis, you're unlocking new powers all the time and allocating your stats the way that you want to. So, I mean, really between the characters and the team and all the different ways that you can play the game, it has endless customization. The story of Marvel Ultimate Alliance is really exciting. Basically, the way that it works is Dr. Doom, an iconic Marvel villain, has reassembled the Masters of Evil.
In our game, it's this epic lineup of villains that you're going to see in all the different areas of the game. And gamers are going to have the ability to choose their team and take on Dr. Doom and his forces throughout the entire storyline. I can't give away too many of the finer plot points. There's a lot of exciting choices that the player have to make. Maybe some iconic heroes are going to die along the way. But basically the deal is that you get to determine the fate of the Marvel Universe as you face off against Dr. Doom and the Masters of Evil. Throughout the game, you can go on different missions, you can do them in different orders, and even within the missions, you can make different choices. One of the ones that we've revealed about the game so far is in the very beginning of the game, players have to choose whether or not to save a guy named Namor and the entire city of Atlantis. I think that most of the time when I play the game, I take the good guy route and always save Atlantis, but I mean, the choice isn't as simple as just saving the city. There's a lot else going on in the plot, and so you can either save the city or let it be destroyed. This change, or this choice rather, is reflected throughout the entire storyline, and there's similar choices populated through all the 5 acts. I mean, it's a very long game, so there's obviously a lot of opportunity to do this, and depending on the choices the player makes, the outcome of the game is always going to be really different. We're really excited. We have these things called epilogue cutscenes, which tie the game back together in the end. When you finish the game, it retells the choices you've made, the decisions you've made, the people you've taken on your team. And the epilogue cutscene is always going to be unique depending on your different choices and the people that you have on your team. We've definitely spent a lot of time on Marvel Ultimate Alliance really tweaking out the fighting. Fundamentally speaking, it's like putting a fighting game mechanic into an action RPG. So all the characters have all the different combos and special powers and energy consumption kind of deal that you would see in a really deep fighting game mechanic. The really exciting part about it though is how the teams work together. So if you choose a team of 4 guys, or girls, they all have different abilities and some work better or worse together, and it's really about balancing out your team. You always want to have a big bruiser guy like the Thing from the Fantastic Four, or even Wolverine, someone that can take a lot of damage, and it's also good to have people like Iceman or Human Torch that can do range damage, and like a well-balanced team is definitely a fine science putting together. Marvel Ultimate Alliance, one of the most significant parts of the game is the online gameplay. We're online on PS3, Xbox 360, PSP, Xbox PS2, and PC. We have 2 different online modes. One is just traditional co-op. You can play with up to 4 players through the entire game with voice chat. It's pretty cool. Maybe your best friend, who's also a Marvel fan, lives across the country. You guys can play together at night. One of the most exciting features of the game is competitive co-op mode. That's essentially playing cooperatively but being scored. So depending on who's doing the best on the team, it's all ranked. There's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's been really exciting for us at Activision and at Raven seeing who's actually the best at the game. I can confidently say that I am not the best at Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and that the Xbox test server leaderboards reflect that. So regretfully, I'm not the best, but it's a really exciting opportunity for people that like games to really get in there and master the combat, and also really see in real time who's the best and who has what achievements, and who essentially makes the biggest impact on the team online.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance is an all-new action RPG that features the largest cast of superheroes ever in a video game. There are over 140 named Marvel characters in the game. Features really strong online components, named Next Gen, PS3, Nintendo Wii launch title. Really exciting story where gamers are actually going to face off against the Masters of Evil, Dr. Doom, and create their own customized team of Marvel characters, which they'll be able to level up, build team reputation, or they can take a more traditional Marvel team. Gamers are going to really have the ultimate choice to determine the fate of the Marvel Universe, either by using some of their favorite teams from classic comics or by creating their own custom team. The new characters that we're revealing for Comic-Con are Human Torch, Invisible Woman, and Iceman. I work mostly on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and I will say that Human Torch and Iceman are pretty epic on those consoles because with the kind of the nature of their effects, Human Torch having this awesome next-gen real-time fire that lights up the whole environment, and features really cool distortion shaders. It's really awesome to be able to control that in the game and kind of like shoot around fire and light all the enemies on fire. That's really great. And Iceman's powers, we've been using HDRL, or Bloom it's called, to really like give the effect of like the way that snow actually lights up and stuff like that. So you have these cool ice effects, and it's really awesome to be able to make a comic game in the next gen, because all the different hero effects, you can do so much more with the different shaders and like really take the whole combat element of the game to a level that really can only exist in a movie, at least to this point. You know, you're never going to see a fire effect in a PS2 game that will rival a movie. But all of a sudden, you know, now on the next gen, you have these amazing fire effects. It really allows you to take the whole superhero experience and really like make you live it in the game the way you never could before. Well, the PS3 and Xbox 360 feature actually a different engine than the current gen. And when I say different, it's more like of a hybrid that we've worked. Raven Software is working on the game, and they've worked with Vicarious Visions to really supplement our engine with a lot of the things that are making next-gen games come to life for players. I mean, on the surface level, that's obviously neural mapping, specular mapping, all that kind of stuff that makes the character models really pop. The Wii is definitely one of the most exciting aspects of the project. We, so far, have been really focusing on making all of the characters feel unique. It's one thing that is, I think, technically challenging making a launch title for the Wii is seeing your ideas kind of like come to life. And for us, we've definitely been doing a ton of concept testing at Vicarious Visions, trying to figure out like what's the best way to play the Wii controller and how it works best for our game. And it's really great to see the feedback, and it's also really interesting for people like me. My original idea of how the Wii controller worked is much different than it is now, as I've gotten to play the Wii and seen other people play the Wii. And fundamentally speaking, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, what it seeks to do is allow people to really feel what it's like to be the different characters in the game. We have over 22 playable characters, and so a guy like Spider-Man obviously has different attacks. You can web a guy and swing around in a circle, or you can shoot the web. That's obviously going to be different than somebody like Thor, who's got a hammer that you can control, or Wolverine, who's got this like brutal hack and slash style. A lot of characters have like charge abilities, where in the current gen consoles, you're button mashing to build up their powers. All of those powers are going to be made through like kinetic movements with the Wii controller. So if you're going to be charging the controller, you might be doing something like this, or you might be doing like this. Those like building up the energy obviously works that way. There's a lot of mini games that involve pushing and pulling. They're obviously going to really take advantage of the Wii controller, and they're all going to be different. The game is fundamentally very different from X-Men Legends, mainly because X-Men Legends, the whole series, focused on more of a traditional RPG. The power sets were like really straightforward in terms of you would have like a radial attack or a straight melee attack, or you would have like this like, traditional ranged attack, and it really like drawed upon what was considered classic in I would say an action RPG. The strengths of the game obviously were the depth of the character roster, and the different RPG depth. But making X-Men Legends and X-Men Legends 2 really gave us a foundation of understanding like what's cool about the game, and what can be different. And for Marvel Legends, we've really taken the game in its own unique direction from action RPGs. The game is really focused on combat, and when I say that, basically what we've tried to do is supplement like a fighter mechanic into an action RPG. With that said, though, there's obviously incredible RPG aspects that really tie together the game. Players are going to be able to assemble their own custom team of Marvel characters and determine the fate of the Marvel Universe, or choose from more classic lineups and kind of relive moments that they loved from the comics. Personally, I'm biased, but I think that it's probably one of the strongest comic games ever to come out, and presents comic content in a way that all gamers, regardless of how hardcore comic fans are, they're going to love. And I think for anyone who's been at all exposed to gaming or comic movies or comic books themselves, it has a lot to look forward to.